We're here today to talk about the Great Healing. It's a good topic, an important topic, especially today with the COVID epidemic. And I guess we can expand that now because it's not just the pandemic anymore. It's all the things associated with the pandemic, or all the lack of wellness that the pandemic is bringing to the surface.
I don't think there's much doubt we live in a troubled world. The environmental collapse, ever-increasing wealth disparity, the pandemics that Sensei mentions,
many
overpopulation.
Issues caused by overpopulation.
And basically, I think the worst one is the dystopian view.
If you're not familiar with that term, dystopia is the opposite of utopia. So sometimes we are both fans of science fiction, and we're both lovers of movies, and so sometimes we'll look for a good science fiction movie, and sometimes we have to give up because it's so difficult to find a science fiction movie or a movie about the future that is not dystopian.
Yeah,
which just says something about the state of mind of all of us today, of people today.
Exactly. And so it's the great thing about the awakening mind is you just watch a dystopian movie and change the ending in your mind. You just say, oh, they didn't all die. They all went into the bardo and experienced transcendent formations and came back in another lifetime and saved the world.
Or you develop your own movie production studio.
Or meditation centers.
Or all of the above.
All of the above. Anyway, that's at the collective level, and then at the personal level, it's again obvious the emotional conflicts and primitive views are conflictive thinking, troublesome thinking, loneliness, feeling of meaninglessness. No one would choose any of these. So
no healthy person would choose these.
So it's pretty good. It's pretty clear, I think, that we're masters of misery. You know, we have no troubles getting good at misery. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to go, what are my miseries? Nope, they're right there.
Let me think really hard about something to be miserable about. We don't have that problem.
No,
right?
No one needs to practice the negative, right?
I did a gratitude practice for a couple of years, and at the time, I would have days where I would feel really challenged to think of things to be grateful about. And I want to out myself, and I want to kind of normalize that. And so this is one reason when we learn to meditate, and not just on the cushion. When we talk about meditation in this context, we're talking about meditation and awareness on and off the cushion. When we talk about that, we are really talking about training our mind, so that we have the ability to train it to not automatically default to the negative in this case.
We can look at the why of this. There's an obsessive concern with the materialist world and things of the materialist world.
Mm-hmm.
Social media consumption doesn't help much. Entertainment and other addictions run wild. But curiously, all the negative takes some effort. You kind of got to go find the negative. While the pure or the cure from the negative in the dystopian world and our problems and our current concerns is really incredibly simple. And it's readily available and it's free. I mean, it is really easy to get out of the negative. So what does that look like?
Oh, I was just going to ask you the same question.
So
one of our strongest recommendations is to spend time in nature.
Alone, preferably. Being alone allows you to open into the environment without the ego's need to have something to say about it. So walking in nature alone, in the country, by a river, in the mountains, wherever you've got, in the plains, being alone in nature opens a space inside yourself that matches the space you're in. So if you're alone in nature, nature's alone, you're alone with it, all of a sudden you're not alone anymore. You and nature are in the same place.
And when we say in nature, I'd like to note that when we lived in Kyoto, how big do you think our garden was? Our garden was
10 feet, 20 feet by 5 feet.
20 feet by 5 feet?
2 meters by 6 meters.
Yeah, just that little space of nature had quite an astonishing ecosystem going that we could connect with and feel a part of. And that's one of the main things about spending time alone in nature, is that we realize all of the life that we're connected with that we usually aren't aware of.
And you want to be silent. That's why you want to be alone, because then you're not kind of obligated to talk. So being still and quiet in nature already opens your being and encourages and instills that sense of stillness inside you. And so it doesn't have to bring the sense of aloneness or loneliness, because you're never alone anywhere. Even in nature, you're deeply connected to the environment and what's going on around you. So this continuous form of myriad forms of life and the expressions of life are actually you. Your organism is one of the organisms in nature that is moving through it. And so the nature can give you that strong sense that you're one with it. So another way to do this is to practice being here now. So here introduces a relaxed other. When you're here with something. So the relaxed other is not a person. The relaxed other is just the environment you're in again. So being here now, which is easy to do in nature, but which you can do anywhere, simply means bringing your attention into the immediate presence and the immediate awareness of this moment. So already the negative is falling away, because the negative is about the past or the future.
That's right.
So if you just bring yourself into the awareness of what is being heard in your room when you're alone, quietly, you're in the here, so-called here, you're in the so-called now, and as long as you don't let the mind go off on its stories or its problems or its difficulties, you've just cured all the world's problems, at least for a minute.
And being in nature really helps us to do this, because being in nature really beckons to us to use our senses more than we might especially if we're inside and connecting with electronics. Nothing against being inside and connecting with electronics, but when we are in touch with our sense bases, which nature helps us to do, then that brings us more profoundly into the present moment and makes us aware of all these amazing things that are happening in our environment, which we're a part of all the time.
So the here is also a now. So you get this distillation of awareness, that you're distilling the awareness down to just this moment and just this space that you're occupying. Now there's two ways to disengage from the negative while you're here. The first thing you can say is, well, what's wrong with this moment? This is the via negativa. So you're sitting here in this moment and you go, well, what's wrong with it? So via negativa it must come up with the answer, nothing. There's nothing wrong with this moment. Or you can flip it into the via positiva and say, well, what's right about this moment? Well, you're going to say everything. This moment is perfect just the way it is. And again, you've cured the dystopian world and all the problems and all the miseries that are out there, at least from the point of view of your experience in this immediate moment.
In this moment. And that's the key part, is to distill space and time to this moment. Because if you have an answer to that question, that there is something wrong, that means you've slipped either into the past or into the future. Because by its very nature, there's can be nothing wrong with this moment right here.
And in that sense, if this moment is perfect, you've just healed the planet, yourself, everybody in it, and everything that's going on.
That's right.
Because fundamentally where the thing goes astray is when people are operating and moving from the not here and the not now. Because if you're in the here and the now and you're in a good space, there's no motivation to do anything wrong or bad or harmful to your being or anybody else's being. There's no great motivation to try to get more or avoid less. There's even really no huge motivation to necessarily seek healing. Because fundamentally that which heals is the awakened mind. And all the other modalities of healing are kind of what near misses an attempt to do what the core of the being wants to do, which is rest in the here and now in this moment.
Just being here in this present moment is a profound act of healing. And that's for one's own organism, for one's immediate environment, and for the entire planet. And we really encourage that you reflect on this.
And old illnesses don't stick. The more you're in the here and the now, kind of provisio on the words you and here and now, because, of course, in union, none of these words really apply.
Right. When we're in union with the environment, the sense of me slips away, right? And that's also a profound act of healing. I can't be obsessed with my problems if I'm in union with all of creation.
And in that sense, then, you know your practice going forward. Your practice going forward is no matter what you do, where you go, and how you do it, the part of your being that you relate from, you're relating from the here and the now. You're not relating from what you do out there with the rest of it. There is really very little freedom in desire that is tied to objects, whether it's money objects or relationship objects or whatever, because of course objects are out of your control and they're subject to loss and they're subject to change. So there's little freedom in being tied to an object. The purpose of objects is to lead you, a conditioned human being, home to the here and now that is desireless. So the object is an attempt to, in its satisfaction, the object is an attempt to get you back into the here and now. And so when you get back to the here and now, you no longer need an object. So now you're in the happiness, or you're in the true realm of desire that has no object. So it's the desire of the desirelessness.
So to rest in the here and now, it's kind of a act of trust. I can trust that I can leave all of my problems and things that I need to do or whatever it is that preoccupies my time or my mind or my heart. I can set those to the side to dwell in the here and now, to leave those alone for a while. And I know that they'll still be there, right? I'm not going to lose them or anything. I'm not going to lose the ability to consider them later. In a sense, this is what awakening is all about, this ability to trust that we can let go of these things and just rest in the here and now and in this sense of union with all of creation. And one of the synonyms for awakening, for spiritual awakening, is the great healing.
So the awakened mind, here and now, there it is. Whatever happens from that is made manifest. You find yourself doing whatever you do. All of this only makes sense, really, if you have a kind of concept or an understanding of rebirth. If you realize that the minute you move away from the here and the now and the awakened mind and the nature of desire made manifest that is in the here and now, because you're experiencing something, right? So you're in this here and now and it's made manifest. That's true desire, the true desire of basically being here. Then anything that moves forward from that, right, or away from that, is rebirth. You move out of the here and now into some sort of attachment or aversion, and you're gone into the rebirth cycle. And so you eventually go through the cycle of that storyline, and it is unsatisfying at some level, because the only place where you really totally feel satisfied is in that here now moment. So it's back. So when you start to understand the nature of the rebirth cycle, you understand the imperative of staying in the here and now all the time, because that never gets reborn. So it's no longer subject to loss.
And that's, you're saying, apply the desire mind to the desire to be in the here and now.
And in so far as you're in the here and now, desire as a word falls away, because it just is. And then
and there's not an object to attach it to.
And when you get confused and you forget that, then you get caught by an object, and then you chase, like a greyhound dog chasing the rabbit around the track. You get caught chasing things over and over again and again forever. So the here and now is desire made manifest. Because if you kind of, for lack of a better word, remain in that desireless state of desire, then you'll still do stuff. You'll still sing and dance and go swimming and start a business or have kids or whatever you do, but you'll never have left the space that is your freedom, in spite of the management and engagement you have with the objects of day to day. And now you've cured yourself, and you've cured the planet from your point of view. Right? And the job then is really simply to get more and more people to understand that that's where they should be moving from. So we create less and less problems for ourselves and each other on the journey.
And Capel's talking about freedom. So when we're in the here and now, that gives us the freedom to, in a sense, be a new person in each moment. And what I mean by that is we talked about leaving our preoccupations to the side, right? So we can also leave our habits to the side. And you know our habits, like we kind of love them. They're kind of like our blankie, they're comfy and they're cozy and kind of fuzzy, but they're probably also a little dirty and maybe have holes in them and so on, getting a little mildew on them or stains or something. So maybe it's time to get rid of the old blankie and get a new blankie, right? So we can leave our old habits to the side, and they'll still be there if we want to go back to them. For me, a good example is being early. I'm just barely punctual on a good day, I guess. Capel likes to say I'm like the Japanese train system.
Right.
I'm like it. Exactly, at 2:00.
Very German too, right down to the... Well, since...
And if I choose to leave that habit to the side and be early, then I'm really a completely new person from the one that you've known for 20 years, aren't I?
Oh,
and that
Who are you?
opens up space, right? If I can leave one old habit or dirty old blankie by the side, that gives me the power and the confidence to do that with anything. It opens up a tremendous sense of creativity and energy and spontaneity, and you never know what might happen.
So since the awakening mind is the aware or quiet mind of the here and now, alone, because in any moment of time you're alone, always, and you rest perfectly in that perfect moment, you're healed. That's called the great healing. It replaces all the therapies, medicines, diets, self-help manuals, teachers, gurus, all of it. It creates a doorway to peace, contentment, and creativity that is not tied to particular results emerges. It is that state that heals the illusory divisions and struggles of objects and goals that we get lost in by being attached and clinging to our lives. And you're back to the rebirth thing. If you understand you're going to do this again and again and again, there's no great reason to cling to what's going on now. And in that sense, you have your heart's desire of being present and okay, good, perfect, right here, right now. And Medicine Buddha then has done his work.